Guy, there's so much incredible press that's been coming out on you. And I know that you're a very humble human, so I don't want to push you too much to talk about it, but you were named, what was it? Goldman Sachs, like intriguing entrepreneur of
Well, yeah,
2020.
one of a group of the most intriguing entrepreneurs of the year. Yeah.
I mean, like drop the mic in 2021 in the midst of in the midst of a very hard 2020 to be able to be named that. Congratulations. Like
Thank you.
what a huge feat.
Thank you, and it's all a testimony of how good the team around me is. At the end of the day, I'm just there as the face, as the name. It's them who really went into this last 18 months, which were extremely challenging, extremely demanding, and we were in the middle of a pivot of trying to build this national fulfillment platform for cold chain with the spike of COVID. And I cannot say enough about the strength of the team that we have. It's theirs more than mine, even though my name is on it.
I love that. And I think that's the mark of a great leader, is knowing that, it's not about you, it's about, the collective group of what you're building. So that's fantastic. So, but speaking, I want to go back to you a little bit, because I think it's really, you have such an interesting background in terms of, what you were doing pre NutraFresh,
Yeah.
and just like, when you were a kid, what did you want? I just love, you're from Israel, correct?
I'm from Israel, yes.
Yeah, but love
Yep.
the country, love it. I want to retire there at some point. So,
We all do. You just you need to come in ready for that.
so background.
Came from Israel to go to school here to do my master's in Colombia. Ran into a group of very interesting private equity guys. Did mainly consumer good turnarounds, right? Started off with, it wasn't a turnaround, but started off with Raymond Weil watches out of anything. High, of course, coming out of Israel to do high-end Swiss watches. But it taught me a lot on how to build in a market that the brand is everything, right? Everything around you is quality. Now go build a brand for quality brands, right? And be the best among very good. Uh, Around 5, 6 years there, and then got into turnarounds. Was very interested in fixing and building, and there was right about 2008. A lot of companies were going into liquidation, and it really bugged me. It felt like we're using everything one time and throwing away, and people started treating companies that way. Of, let's build a company. Listen, if the idea is not good, we'll tell the investors sorry, move on, build a new, and go for the next great and big idea. And me and two other partners got very, very attached to the idea of, let's connect with the biggest creditor, try to fix the company, and if we do manage to succeed, we go ahead. Anything we believe in advance should be closed, we wouldn't even touch. So I had a nice, interesting roller coaster ride for about 8 years with very iconic brands. People like Ronco, Ron Popeil's old infomercial companies, uh, with Small World Toys, which was a very iconic. I'm pretty sure all of us would have looked at our toy bin as kids. At least two or three of those were in there. All came out with exactly the same conclusions, right? People did it well for a while. Someone came in, lost focus, tried to do it quote unquote better, left the core DNA behind. Huge, huge value loss that led into the company going into a turnaround or a distress situation. What it did tell me also is be very, very, very careful before you take new debt into a new enterprise, right? Something that can look great today when you look at your model, you go into it a year down, something slows down, you get what you expected 6 months later, all of a sudden that debt that was very simple to handle turns into a major hurdle. So coming from all that, learning all that things of mainly consumer goods, we had a nagging spot all along of why is there no good logistics? Why is there, every time we deal with someone, it's as if we went 20 years back in time. Like it always felt like we're back in 1986. And no offense to anyone who was doing it before, but it was always the great part of every management team was the one who dealt with logistics, right? The exciting was doing marketing and sales, and usually you get leadership involvement and CEO and budgets and everything. And the guy who had to bring it from wherever it was making it on time, actually working as hard as anyone, if not harder, was the one that was at best got left with a good job if he managed to not mess it up. So we started dealing with food supplements, and from food supplement we looked at food and we said there must be a better way, especially with the cold chain logistics. So it got us leading. Our first entry, again, someone said, I don't remember which one of the panelists mentioned about be flexible, always be moving. We started as making grain juices, right?
Wait, so this is a question I have in your history, because one of my inspirations is with my entrepreneur friends before, it was in 2008 actually, Blueprint Cleanse, if you're familiar with Blueprint Cleanse.
Yeah, very well.
And I know those founders very, very well. And that was pre-HPP, that whole movement, right?
Correct.
So you had already been looking at that, or tell me how you got into that business. How do you go from turnaround logistics, or sorry, turnaround management into probably the hardest part of logistics? And again, like we'll go into what NutraFresh does, because our community definitely needs to have as much context as possible. But just walk me through.
I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? From high-end Swiss watches to green juices.
I love that, though. No entrepreneur journey is ever, you never really know where you're going to lead.
Yes. And by the way, that's what I love, right? Every 5 years, you never know where you end up. And it's great. So what it was around 2015, 2016, where we heard of HPP. And we said, let's build around that. And the quickest build around that at the time was, let's make the juice to feed the HPP machines. How hard can it be, right? Answer was very hard.
My girlfriends, just for context, my girlfriends have article or stories about how they were making green juice in their kitchen, and like their hands were green from trying to do this green juice, and they'd go and drive it around to Connecticut to the only people that would buy it. I mean, it was one of the hardest businesses to try to do. So I can't imagine trying to do it like with the HPP part.
And to anyone in production, think of a batch that dies in 2 hours. The entire shelf life you have is about 2 hours, unless you batch it properly and do it the right way. So we started there. It was the heydays of juice, if you want to call it. You had Organic Kevin, you had Blueprint, you had 30 Lemon. Everybody were coming up with lots and lots and a lot of innovation, which was amazing to see, and how much money flowed in. But what we got attached more was less with the juice making itself, which we ended up pivoting out at around 2017, 2018, and more of the services around it, whether it's the HPP, which is a non-thermal shelf life extension. So if you look at your average green juice, it goes from a 2-day shelf life to 21 to 30, some of them even 45 days with
and that changes a business, I mean, tenfold when you can do that.
That allowed them
3 day. I mean, it changes a whole different market. Yeah.
And now that allowed them to go national. And then when they go national, that's where we come in. That's how NutraFresh got started. Listen, if you already have my juice, I need it in LA. Can you get it for me? And then we saw that there's a much bigger need when pet foods companies started rising up, the human grade pet food raw and cooked, the human consumption proteins, right? We have customers who bring in $150 a pound Kobe beef ribeyes from Japan. You want that to arrive in 2 days. You don't want that going back. So we saw a need of building all that layer. Usually the players are very regional. And when they're very regional, they're very warehouse oriented. Our first step in was, let's build a national platform covered by a technology overlay that will allow brands to go fully national from 2 or 3 or 4 locations. And the adoption was almost immediate. I think, and again, it's only a testament to the entrepreneurship of the market and to the quick adoption of the brands themselves. I think, and if my numbers are off, it's good in scale. We're almost 20x growth in 4 years, and that's only because of the brands that keep coming and coming and coming and building this direct to consumer market. That if you look at it 3 4 years ago, probably had Blueprint and Organic Avenue. I don't think we had anyone
That was
else.
pretty much it. I mean, I was on the VIP account for Blueprint Cleanse. So but it was literally like the way that they were doing it was very, very hard logistically. I
And
mean,
if I'm opening
it was
social
like, it
media
was,
today, you have at any given moment 50 different brands advertising. We consider ourselves pretty knowledgeable. We on a regular basis learn of significant sized brands that are working out of their own locations, not even knowing that they need to come out and go into a platform, not understanding that, the very simple mistakes that they make of trying to keep it in, thinking local efficiencies will help nationally, which is not always the case, right? If you want to expand coast to coast, yes, you can probably do it for a while, but being close to your consumer at the end of the day serves you much better. Think of a business case of two brands that are selling for Thanksgiving, very similar products, right? One person ships from a 1 day ground radius from 85% of the country. That person can ship their last box on Tuesday, or if they're really adventurous, on Wednesday. Another guy who ships from, let's say, two areas in the country, or from one area in the country, and don't want to lose their entire margin on shipping, has to ship their last shipment on Monday or even on Sunday. Most of us shop late. Well, me.
definitely me, definitely me. And what I've noticed is and this actually goes really well with our conversation. I've noticed that when I am purchasing these types of, and especially there's the baby, I have an 11-month-old baby. There's the wellness baby food kits, or all these different things. And I've noticed my consumer behavior is, if it's shipping late, I all of a sudden look at the brand and I don't trust the food that they just sent me. I think it's old. I think it's I won't give it to my baby, whatever it is. And so there's this, it's an interesting thing when it takes a week for me to get something. It may not be that it is, or, but in my mind as a consumer, I'm thinking fast is the way that you're going to retain my loyalty. So, I mean, tell me, how are you guys, like, I know that logistics is, not the sexiest topic, but you are really creating and activating sales and retention for these brands. So I just love to understand how the 3PL does that.
That's actually a great question. We're over the last 2 years, as we're developing the technology, we had a lot of reach outs from the big distributors. Okay, so we're working with probably the country's two largest cold chain distributors. Usually they go in and sell by the case to restaurants, right? Food service guys. With COVID coming in, they took a huge hit. Restaurants don't move as fast as they used to. These guys wanted to start moving niches. So they came to us, if we put a few cases in you, can you ship niches? The answer was, of course we can. That's what we do all day long. So now our brands who used to do food service can now ship niches to direct to consumer using those distributors' websites. So, for example, and one name out of many, look at US Foods. Any one of our customers would be able to go starting January on US Foods, list their products, and have US Foods sell their products either to consumers or in each's mode to restaurants. We have subscription management. We have a system that helps you manage your subscriptions. Um, Being close to the consumer, allowing you a 1 day ground to 85% of the country, allows the carriers, especially now this time of year, less chances to fail. You're in a hub, in a truck, and to the door. You're not going through any complex network. Again, when you have a subscription, the least times you fail that you need to compensate, that you need to explain, the better the retention is. We operate a system of predictive analytics, and I know it sounds bombastic, but it's basically looking at a route, understanding where a package needs to be by a certain date, a certain time, assuming that if it doesn't, everything else will be delayed going forward, allowing you to say, small flag customer, we're shipping high volumes, we may be late. Traditionally, as a customer myself, if someone tells me I'm going to be late, I'll be much more lenient and forgiving.
Completely, versus me reaching out and saying, hey, where's my package? Where's my package?
It's
You
a
know, it's
subscription.
the
My
overly
dog needs to
communication,
leave.
the overly communicating to your customer and
Right.
saying,
So we're working with that. We're actually having we have one of our VPs. I think he has the best job ever. He is finance and analytics. His role, and I think we'll bring him into the face to face because it's going to be um, a great interaction with brands. His role, we developed a whole analytics and simulation team based on Tableau, which is a big data tool. We'll tell you how you compare on the distance you ship, meaning your average shipping zone, and on your average time in transit, to anonymously others of your size and to the industry. We can take your history and run a full analytics and tell you how many locations you need to be in. And
wow.
the difference
And
of
for
doing
planning
it yourself,
processes to be able to predict that. And,
right,
you know, in terms of, I mean, all of your business, to be able to predict that and to know, I mean, that's huge. That probably increases, you know, your profit, you know, it makes everything so much more seamless.
and the ROI to the brand is even more than that. Because if you're doing it on your own, which at a certain scale I get, I would argue that no matter what scale you should use a 3PL, but up to a very high scale, opening a new location leaves you exposed. You invest money in it, you train people, and your entire volume is what keeps that building alive. When you come to us, the aggregated volume of more customers allows you to say, I'm going to be soft this month, but guess what? You have no extra cost. I'll put someone else in there until your seasonality picks up and you grow again. And then you come in and actually do what you need to do when you need to do it. And the only added cost is getting the inventory, maybe doubling it or tripling it, and getting it out. When you look at perishable, you don't want stuff sitting around waiting for volume.
Well, and that is one of the most risky businesses to get into. So what you're doing by making sure that people aren't having to do this on their own, or you know, if you're de-risking their business, right? Like you're really helping them,
exactly,
you know, in one of the most risky parts of, you know, consumer goods. So
yep,
high stakes, but high rewards, right?
exactly. I mean, look, we have a joke. I have 3 daughters, and my wife is a good Jewish mom, and she comes in, and every time, and I know you're ahead of this, so be prepared, and you'll see that it happens to you too. You drop them in for the first day of preschool, and you leave them in, and you peek through the window, and the kindergarten teacher tells you, "Go, it's okay, go," and you go, and you call, and you email, and that's how we feel with customers. And we try to tell them, guys, you have to become marketing, sales, production. That's it. The more
And
effort
that is
spent in,
actually the best part to sit in versus, I mean, I'm not saying your part is so necessary, but it's so hard. It's so difficult. Like the amount of time that a company would need to learn, or time, money, everything to be able to learn and to, figure out the tech behind it, figure out the analytics. Like there's no reason why they should be spending that time on that. Their best move is to create a great product, marketing, sales.
now it's my headache, right?
Yep.
And we have the ability to get it. Again, granted, test it out. Don't believe, right? Grow gradually, slow,
Yeah.
rationalize your SKU count. Don't come in and send 300 SKUs where only 5 are selling, just in case the customer wants one add-on. Be rational with how you're doing it. I mean, we're at any moment we're probably aggregating 100 to 150,000 shipments in a week. So we see it, we know it, we can benchmark you to others, and it's the ones that think on their feet and tell me, you know what? Even though I think that pink bow at a 45-degree angle tied with white gloves is the best thing ever, I'm going to give it up for now. And I'm going to allow this to work more efficiently and actually achieve capacity. And I'll take the money I'm saving and I'll put it into social media or into product development or into anything that would actually make my business grow.
I love that. And you have, with that amount of product that you're shipping, there's got to be redundancies during and disasters that happen, right? How does a good 3PL partner help?
So
and just tell me, maybe there's some scenarios you want to
yeah,
talk about. I don't know if you want to talk some case study war stories, however you want to position it.
We're getting close to that time of year, but last year during COVID, one of our main partners on the West Coast got hit with an outbreak all through their facility. They were expected to do 20, 30,000 shipments. And it happened, I think, like this week last year. So you're about to get hit with losing Thanksgiving, not getting it there in time for Christmas. Being a part of the chain of network of partners, we were able to build or to start up a second facility within 5 days, 250 miles away, not optimal, but alive, and didn't miss a single holiday or a single shipment. Yes, it was more costly. We had to move inventory, but at the end of the day, the customer did not disappoint their consumers, and it still came in. And that's the power of working with a platform in a group, right? If you were alone at that moment, the only option you have is what? Shift volume to the East Coast and then pay an unbelievably expensive amount to send it over. Yes, you'll get your holiday, you'll get your top line. You won't make money. That's what we're trying to bring into the market. We've recently purchased an Israeli tech platform called Fetchy, which will be relaunching as a NutriFresh brand in January. It will include most of those features I discussed earlier and some more, like live tracking, like customer service tracking, like live updates and live warnings to customer service to reach, and a very interesting, very challenging, and very interesting predictive tool that we're looking to take weather and traffic and public works and history and roll it all into once, and to incorporate that into which carrier should we use, should we not use. I know we're close on time, but one other comment is, working on the platform, we work with 9 different carriers. When you work on your own, you may have volume for one, you may have volume for two, one national, one regional. Out of every location, we have at least different 4 picking up.
So you have backup the entire, I mean, you're basically
one guy has a critical
overly secure.
Yes, right? That guy can't ship, I'll move the volume to the other, right? And it's seamless. The brand won't even know. It's just in the email, the tracking number will have a different format.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, so, okay, I have so many questions, but in terms of you're talking about your challenges with obviously your customers, but I know that you had a challenging time kind of pivoting the business and moving towards this. What were some of the greatest challenges you had, and you faced in building NutraFresh?
It's so funny. The previous panelist spoke, and I'm like, they stole all my answers. But it's that, right? It's been nimble. It's saying, don't be afraid of change. Change is probably any brand I went through, including NutraFresh. We changed the main goal and purposes of the company 3 or 4 times during the turnaround, right? We were a juice brand, that the juice manufacturer that did HPP. Who knew that we're going to end up with 11 buildings doing cold chain logistics around the country, right? Don't be afraid of it. Always rationalize what you're doing, right? Marketing and sales will drive for more and more and more. And that's where I came in. The best hire I ever had was a CFO who is exact opposite of me. Everything I say yes to, he yells no.
I get it.
and you know what? Best hire, best addition to our team we ever had, because it forces you to think again. And if by the 3rd time I'm still convinced that I want it, you know what? Maybe it's not a bad idea. The last thing, absolute last thing, and please keep that. I know it's easy to say. There were times where I wasn't there at all, but please try to continue enjoying what you do. Have fun when you wake up, because if not, it really is not worth it. If you're not enjoying the day-to-day, you're doing it the wrong way. And maybe then another pivot is a time, but that's a different discussion for a different time.
But what I love, and I think this is, I think your journey is so, it all actually makes a lot of sense, because you went from turnaround management where you said, listen, all these companies, why are they just throwing in the towel? Like, why are you throwing in the towel when you actually have some good stuff? You just need to, do a couple pivots and amplify your business. And you did the same thing with this business, basically. I mean, yes. What an awesome way of kind of, doing it from, the investor standpoint and operations standpoint, but now doing it as an entrepreneur. I mean, this is the stuff that people need to hear, because, we have all this media that's like, oh, if you don't have a great business in 3 years and you haven't sold to Facebook, you're no good. You should just stop and throw in a towel. But you know what? The real businesses have positive perseverance along the way. They pivot a couple times. They change, team members a couple times, and they ultimately, if you persevere, I believe really you ultimately will win. You just have to keep fighting another day, right?
If you persevere smart, right? Don't go bang your head against the wall. The wall will win. But if you persevere, look, my grandfather, and I know we have to finish, but my grandfather had a saying, it always ends well. Okay? And if it's not all good now, simply it's not the end. Keep going.
I love that. I feel like I need to get that like on engraved somewhere. I mean, I don't do tattoos, but I think I need to have it. It always ends well. That is a great, and with that, I mean, this workshop's ending, but my goodness, like, I know I'm getting like Matt. I know Matt from our live. I'm getting a bunch of comments. I mean, we just thank you. You're such an inspiration to our entire community. We can't wait to see you in person. And again, and I love entrepreneurs also who are building families, because I just started building my family this year, and you have 3 daughters, and it's really for all of us who are trying to also have our dream business and our dream family life and all of that. It's just like a beautiful holistic thing to watch people build like you. So thank you.
Thank you very much.